episode of Alter Your Health Live, your source of inspiration and information, of course, to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter.
And I'm your co-host, Dr. Susanna Alter.
Really happy to be here. Really happy to have Dr. Susanna. Especially happy today because she's going to lead the conversation, because to be quite honest, I'm not feeling it, which is kind of, ironic given the focus of our talk on feelings.
Well, maybe I think you are feeling it. You're feeling it a little more than you usually feel it.
I'm feeling.
Is that accurate?
Well, I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling. Maybe I'm just feeling more than I usually feel. So,
but yes,
take it away.
Today we're talking about emotions and how emotions can impact your physical health and what to do with emotions, how to deal with them, how to relate to them in what we think is a healthy way. And I love this topic because I've always considered myself a very emotional person. I think in the past I judged it as a bad thing. Like I'd have to kind of rein it in a little bit sometimes. But I've in the most recent years, I've learned some practices and tools, and just ways of relating with my emotions that I think have really helped me to accept that I'm a human being that has emotions. So, yeah, I think that's a good place to start, with just laying out the fact that with being a human being comes emotions. So, and that's Winnie. Winnie's in our usual background. Yes.
Yeah, and on the other side of the story, here I am as someone who hasn't always identified as an emotional human being, even though, as you say, we are all emotional beings. Human beings have, or spiritual beings have an emotional experience.
A human experience.
A human
which
experience.
Is an emotional experience.
Which is inherently an emotional experience. So I think that in my journey, I have had more of a challenge accepting that and expressing that. And it's something that I've always tried to lock it up and like hide it and just, be as I see or be as I think I should be in the world rather than be as I am a lot of the time. So that has kind of translated to emotional suppression a lot of the time, for including to some extent here now today. Anyways.
Well, and I think that's a very, your experience with that is very common with a lot of people. And I would love it, Ben, if you shared a bit about your experience when you were in Hungary, how you found your kind of holding in emotions, how that actually played out in your physical body, because it's such a good example.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize it at the time, of course, but looking back, it's very clear. And that's how things are when we look back and we reflect. We can see patterns play out, and we can't necessarily pinpoint in the moment. So yeah, when I was living and working abroad, I was feeling very lonely and isolated a lot of the time. And I didn't necessarily I didn't feel too much sadness, or I didn't feel like that was necessarily a negative, sad thing. That wasn't really plaguing me on a day-to-day basis. However, I was getting sick often. I was getting chronic, I was developing chronic digestive issues like nausea and vomiting that would just come in waves. And I was also chronically fatigued. And I was eating really well and taking pretty darn good care of myself. on the physical level. And I thought it was like the water I was drinking or some food that I was eating. But I realized, after some months, I realized that it was just this low grade feeling of isolation and loneliness that was really disturbing me on a physical level. And like I said, I was like, oh, I'm fine. I think I was 23, and I was like, I'm an adult. I'm fine. Everything's okay. There's nothing wrong. Like I just need to, grow up, and like, I just like, this is normal. And I just kind of kept my head down and powered through. And but so yeah, the physical symptoms that surfaced was the effect of me kind of just ignoring what was really present in my emotional body.
Mhm.
So it was brought to a place for me to see and experience in the physical.
Yeah, because you weren't allowing yourself to really just feel it.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
And I mean, I remember in particular in your story, when it became more clear to you was when you would go travel to other places on the weekend, and you'd be around people, and you wouldn't feel so isolated, right?
I felt amazing every time that I went to a new beautiful city, and it was like a game. I was able to like be someone who I really wasn't. I was able to like put on a new like face and show a new face to the world and have this other side of me show. And then yeah, I would get back on a train and go back to where I was living. And I remember one time very vividly, distinctly, I just, it was like a wave of just this fatigue and this deep stomach pain. I got nauseous on the train, and like I said, I thought, oh, maybe I had too many beers the night before or something,
Mhm.
or maybe it was something in the water that I was drinking.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the timing of kind of the resolution of those symptoms when you were out of town and then coming back into town, how they would slowly come back in. It's very interesting,
it
and how it
is.
correlates with your emotions. And
It is, and that was my first. I had heard about this whole mind body connection, and I had some conceptual understanding of what that meant. But when I had that experience, I thought it was actually like amazing. I
Mhm.
thought I was really inspired by my self and my own awareness and my own experience. And the end of that story, I mean, um, the next day, literally from that awareness, I woke up in the morning and I decided, hey, like I'm okay. Like, everything is okay. I kind of, I did that through a practice of meditation and just like centering myself in the morning. Each morning from that point forward, I would just affirm to myself, like, I I guess essentially I am a spiritual being having a human emotional experience.
And I'm okay. I'm having these emotions, and I'm still okay, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there was still, it's interesting that you say that. I think there was still an element, still a degree of suppression of the emotions. Like I was, I was kind of, yeah, I was kind of saying that I was okay, even though maybe I didn't fully feel okay. I was just like telling myself I was okay. And of course I was okay, you know, but I was still, I was still feeling isolated and lonely, and those were real.
Yeah.
But I was okay, more okay
More
with
okay
it,
with feeling that way.
more okay
Yeah.
with it. And then, the physical symptoms, sure enough, did completely resolve, like, instantaneously from that point forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, similar to this idea of how repressing emotions um, can lead to physical symptoms, I think another way to put that is holding on to emotions, whether like you can push them away and kind of repress them, or you can just kind of like hold on to them while you're really aware of the emotion, just like not let go of it. And a lot of times this comes up, I think, with anger, when like if you're so angry at something or someone and it's like you don't want to let go of it, because if you let go of it, that means that like you're letting someone off the hook or something like that.
Are you talking about me again, Susanna?
No, I'm well, no, I'd like to just I want to talk a bit about this idea of being okay with emotions and letting emotions just kind of ride out their course. Because gosh, in I'd say the last 24 hours, I've been through intense feelings of fear, intense feelings of anger, and I mean that I'm not perfect or anything. That may show out in my actions, but I think,
well, you hid those from me pretty well.
well, I don't know if I really hit them. I feel like what has been new in my relating with emotions is just letting them be there and trusting that they're going to pass, and trusting that those emotions don't necessarily mean anything bad. Like, for example, if I'm feeling scared, usually those are associated with a bunch of thoughts that are like, well, what if this happens and what if that happens? And realizing that those thoughts usually / always come from a place that isn't really my authentic self, that those thoughts come from a fear state and are feeding this kind of fear cycle. I'm able to kind of just see it as it is, which is fear, and not like it's not. I feel like in the past I was thinking, oh, maybe this is my intuition coming in and warning me about something, and I need to do something about it if I'm feeling fearful or something. But what I've come to notice is that when my intuition is communicating with me, I feel different. I don't feel scared. I feel usually inspired, or I'll feel just like a very clear knowing. And what's different is that when I'm in these kind of fear states, I think a lot of people know what fear feels like, but it's a lot of like negative downer energy, and makes me kind of like my body just kind of shrinks into itself, and there's this feeling of needing to protect myself somehow. And so yeah, honestly, this is kind of new for me to welcome in the emotion when it comes, rather than being like, no, I don't want to feel fear, because that means that blah 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 blah. And it's just I notice that when I allow it in or welcome it in, it usually passes relatively quickly. I felt fear last night when I woke up in the middle of the night. It's kind of like sometimes I can do that, especially in big wood cabins like this. And I let it pass. I woke up this morning. I felt great again. So I'd love to hear, our viewers out there, if you have any experiences with how you deal with emotions.
Yeah. It is such a unique, it's the most unique aspect to being human, in my opinion, how we deal with emotions. It's funny, we think about the, food preferences and, do you like the ocean or the mountains? But it's like when it comes down to the human experience, like how our emotional, world is the most unique thing. I mean, you were talking before we press record, you were talking, oh, well, I'm a Pisces, so I'm, that's my nature. And it's like, well, yeah.
For those of you that know horoscope, astrology, Pisces, the kind of stereotype that goes with Pisces is that they're extremely emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you talk to any two Pisces and they experience their emotional worlds completely uniquely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So with
But
that said, back to like our first point, it just comes with being human, and
yeah.
there's nothing wrong about it.
But I mean, I love where you're coming from, Susanna, this new place of welcoming emotions, because I think that that's very accessible for anyone, given that human beings inherently have emotions. So it's not like there's no the question isn't what should I do with it? The question is just welcome it. There's only one, out of all of the possibilities of relating with a different emotion, there's really only one that makes sense in any moment, which is just welcome it
Mm-hmm.
and feel it and just take it for what it's worth in that moment.
Yeah. I feel like also in kind of this field of holistic medicine and psycho-spiritual kind of medicine, there's this idea that emotions need to be processed, that they're stored in the body and you need to like process them and let them go. And I question whether that's necessarily true, because in my opinion, I witness all human beings having emotions. Some people tend to have the same emotions over and over again, but I kind of see it as there's these kind of weather patterns of emotions that humans feel. And like with weather, a rainstorm comes and it goes. And if a rainstorm comes, you don't have to like sit with this rainstorm. Okay, I'm gonna like journal and try to figure out ways to make you go away and stay away and never come back.
Yeah, you just grab an umbrella and go about your business.
Right. And that like the sun's gonna come back out again sometime soon.
Yeah, unless you're in Portland in January.
Right. But still, even then, it's gonna come out again in a few months.
Yeah.
But I feel like taking this approach also, to me, it took away the dread of like, okay, well, now I'm feeling happy again, but like what if I feel scared again and I don't ever want to feel that way again? And like I don't dread feeling emotion, even though I know like, yeah, it's not fun to go through the feeling of fear or anger, whatever it is. It's not what I would choose.
Well,
but
could I ask you, maybe we're backing up or sidestepping a little bit.
Yeah.
But you talked earlier, Susanna, about well, I guess we're not sidestepping. We're talking about letting things come up. But you were talking earlier about anger and like holding on to anger.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you let go of anger? Anger, in my personal experience, because I thought you were talking about me earlier,
No.
have been the kind of person who, when anger comes up inside of me, I want to hold on to that one. I feel it gives me like such a rush, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna show them. Or it's but the unique thing about my anger is it's typically not pointed at anyone. It's just this feeling of like righteousness. So what's your trick?
Well, I can relate to that. I mean, I think for me, when I feel angry, it's usually more directed at someone. And so there's this feeling like if I let go of my anger, then I'm just letting that person get away with whatever way that they wronged me in my mind, But I think with anger and like letting go of it, gosh, sometimes it just is a matter of feeling that anger for, I mean, just feeling it, being present with it, but remembering that you don't necessarily have to act on it. You can feel it, and like with other emotions, it will ride out its course. And
So you don't do anything.
no,
You don't do anything to let it go. You just feel it and say, okay, I'm going to feel it for as long as I feel it. And maybe 2 minutes from now, or maybe tomorrow, it'll be gone.
well, yes, I think what I've also experienced with my anger is that, if you allow yourself to be present with it and just accept that the anger is there, when things do kind of like tone down a little bit, other thoughts come in that I feel are like more intuitive thoughts that are coming from this place inside that like knows that everything is okay.
Could you repeat that? Sorry, I blinked.
Oh yeah, of course. That like after just being present with the anger and it kind of starts to like subside a little bit, that is when there's like space in your awareness for these kind of more intuitive thoughts to come in. That and what I mean by intuition is, I mean like you're receiving these kind of insights from this place within yourself that knows that everything is okay and everything is just as it should be. And from that place come these kind of more like neutral, reassuring thoughts, such as like, what's an example? If I'm angry at someone and just in the heat of the moment, I'm like, oh, they're so bad for doing this and this and this and this and that. But then from a more neutral place come these thoughts of like, oh, well, you know what? Like that person, I have no idea what they were going through. I have no idea where they were coming from. I have no idea how or why they express themselves in this way, but like it doesn't have anything to do with me. And just kind of remember that, they're human too, and they have a right to experience any emotion that they have as well. And I don't know, that's kind of a wordy answer and example, but
yeah. I feel like my intention or goal when it comes to, because anger is an emotion that I have the most challenge with, or it's like, yeah, the most meat for me. And that feeling of like righteousness and just like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it really, but that feeling that kind of, in some way, I feel like addicted to. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to get a little hit of that. I want to be just as addicted, or I want to be just as connected with the feeling that comes from letting anger go and from letting myself off the hook or letting other people off the hook. I want to get, I want that experience of letting anger go being as enjoyable, even though it's weird that anger is an enjoyable feeling. It's not, but there's that kind of attachment that I have to anger. I want to be just as attached, but not really, to the feeling of letting anger go. Do you think that's possible?
Well, I need a moment to think.
It's okay. It's okay.
because yeah, I guess I don't know. I think like, this, what you're saying, this feeling of letting anger go, that's like the same as basically kind of like coming back into balance with your what's the word I want to use? With your
just
peace.
Essential well-being.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Essential well-being, which is kind of at the core of all of us, which is at the core of all of us. And yeah, so to me, it sounds more like you just want to feel that well-being more. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I do. And
And so does everyone.
And so does everyone. And also, but it's, there's a sense of a false sense of well-being that comes through holding on to anger. And I want the real authentic sense of well-being to, I don't know. I don't know. I'm having a hard time articulating myself. I'm kind of, in a foggy state of mind.
Okay.
Which might be a good indication to like tie things together here.
Yes, but I want to talk about one more emotion.
Okay.
I mean, not that it's that different than other emotions.
All right.
But my experience with jealousy has shifted in a major way.
I don't have any experience with jealousy.
Are you being real when you say that, or are you being sarcastic? Because I've never seen you jealous.
Well, I think my feelings with jealousy are different than maybe the typical jealousy. I don't get jealous of people.
Yeah. Like if I were to go hang out with a guy friend, you wouldn't be jealous.
No, never.
Yeah. So I used to feel jealous a lot. And it was one of those emotions that I judged as being really bad. Just like,
oh yeah, that one's terrible. I can't believe you used to be jealous. That's awful.
I know. It's like the worst out of all of the emotions for some reason. And I couldn't even tell people that I felt jealous sometimes because it just felt like such a horrible thing.
And then that's like beating the jealousy in deeper. It's like, it's like making a jealousy stew and that you have to like, sip on all day.
Yeah. And I used to like sit and really process. Where's this jealousy coming from? I need to just pull it out at its roots so that it never comes back. And then I would somehow like, process it enough so that I came to a place of peace. But then at that point I'd be like, all right, that better be the last time I've ever feel it, because if it comes back.
You gave the jealousy ultimatum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so just like with fear and anger and the other ones, I just like, I welcomed it in. And that's one emotion I actually haven't felt in a very long time. Although I do feel it every now and then. And I just remind myself when it comes up, like, all right, it's okay that it's here.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be here forever. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that my thoughts are that the thoughts associated with the jealousy are true. I don't have to take those thoughts seriously.
Yeah, so. It's interesting. I'm sitting here feeling like, man, Susanna is like, I feel like she's a few steps ahead of me in this emotional mastery. And I'm feeling right now like a little judgmental of myself sometimes I feel like I'm just like in like a third grader with my emotions.
Just feel it, Ben. Just let yourself feel that. I think one of the reasons why it feels that way is because right now I'm in a very neutral state, and
yeah, and I haven't told like, I'm sure listeners, anyone who knows me can maybe feel that there's something off, and I would say like, yeah, there's a little something off inside of me like right now still, but hey, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and you're still showing up. And
on that note, we are almost a half hour in. I just wanted to remind listeners, because I'm really bad at doing this, naughty Dr. Benjamin. I'm bad at doing this, but listeners, whether you're tuning in on Facebook or Instagram or iTunes, YouTube, or like wherever you're tuning in from, I don't know if you do, but I love feedback in the form of comments or ratings or reviews. It just really helps me personally, and I know like iTunes also loves that sort of thing. So if you could go to iTunes, or if you're on iTunes, or like, wherever, comment, rating, review, whatever, that'll help a lot. I'll appreciate it. It'll make me feel good. However, I'm not attached to that feeling of goodness. And for more, go to alter.health/podcast.
There was a great one posted on Monday about yoga, the 8 months of yoga. going deeper beyond the asanas. So
Yeah.
that was
So,
a great one.
and we're going to keep them coming,
Mhm.
whether you like it or not. If you don't like it, then turn it off and stop listening and do something that you like. That's my advice to you, you haters. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Let's end this on a good, better note.
All right. Well, feel whatever you feel. Know that it's not wrong. Know that it's not bad. Know that it's just the weather of emotions coming to give you a little visit. And we love you.
Thank you.
It's always good to end on love.
We love you. So peace and love to all of you. And until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.